and our careers and our ministries suffer as a result because of the ego. And remember, a lot of ministries have failed because of their egos. They think they can get away with things because they have a big position, they're pastors of a big church, and then they land up falling because of their ego. They think they can get away with it. They may hear their advice and dismiss it based on what they know to be true, but it is important to always listen. We must always listen. We must keep your ego in check. You have to keep your ego in check. It is important to respect the ability.
Welcome to Flora. Get ready for empowering talk.
Welcome to the Flora Padilla Show. I want to remind you to purchase my books. I have them right here. One is called Overcomers Against All Odds. The other one's called Mending Broken Hearts. And the other one's called He Rescued Me. So make sure you give me a call or send me a message through Facebook or email me and let me know that you want to buy 1 or 2 or 3 books. So let me tell you how I got the topic for this week, because remember, I always ask you to suggest and make sure that you put a comment and put like or share, and on YouTube you can subscribe so it can go directly to you. When it goes on, it goes directly to you. So there's different ways to get this message, and but anyway, I kind of want to give you an introduction on how I got the topic for today, because and it was kind of a little tough for me because I ran into a person that had a big ego, and I don't mind having discussions with people, but when I feel that they have a big ego, there's no way you're going to ever win the conversation, because they always think they're right. So I thought, ego would be a good topic for today. So I started to go through it, and there was so much to research on ego, because it's an emotion. Ego is an emotion, and ego can destroy your life and really destroy your life, because I don't think too many people will want to be around you because you have such a big ego that people will want to stay away from you, because who wants to be arguing all the time about everything? So anyway, I thought, well, I'll talk on ego today, and I'm not here to offend anybody or anything, but I'm just going to kind of share with you what I learned about ego, the emotion. Ego is the sense of I in any life. In other words, it's about I. You know how I've told you that sometimes we're selfish and we're going me. What about me? And in this case, it's I. So it is about I. Ego has 2 senses. It wants to be in charge all the time. It wants to manipulate events and make life come out more to its satisfaction. In other words, it doesn't matter what the other person has to say. It's about you, I. What it means to have an ego. Having an ego may mean any of these things. Being self-loving, self-centered, and proud. Let me ask you today, would you want to be around someone that loves themselves so much and is self-centered and is proud? Yeah, you can be proud of your accomplishments. You can be proud of your children. You could be proud of your husband, proud of your wife. But that's a different kind of proud. Overbearing. I didn't even connect ego in being shy. But ego is also shy. So you can be overbearing and shy, having a grand sense of self, or many other such things. and I'll be talking about different things that a person with an ego has. You may have these qualities within you, and if you do, kind of do a checkup. Get a paper and say, I got to work on that one because I think I have that one. It all depends upon the discernment of the other person. It is standing above others in role or reputation that which is constantly distinguished in self from others. They think they are better and smarter than others. That's an ego. It is the strong sense of self-importance that is constantly protecting and comparing one's situation in relationship to others. That's the worst thing you can do, is compare yourself with somebody else. Because I always say we're all unique and we're all special. So we don't have to compare ourselves with anybody else, because there's only one of you. And in Proverbs 16:18, it says, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before stumbling. A person with an ego problem is. Okay? And I will stay away from these people, and I'm sure you will too. But let me tell you what an ego emotion person has. They're vain. They're very conceited. They're self-centered. They're inconsiderate. They're very self-centered. It's all about them. They're thoughtless, uncaring, unthinking. They're insensitive. They're half-hearted. They're uncharitable. They're selfish people. They're unkind, mean-spirited, looking after number one. A man with a large ego will think that he is much better than anyone else and always tries to one-up everyone. Like, for instance, if let's say you're sharing something good, okay, and you can hardly wait to share it with that person, and you think, wow, this is something really neat that I want to share with someone, and all of a sudden that person just wants to top it. And once you see that a person wants to top your story, you just pull back. That's what I do, is I say, I am not here to compete. Okay, example. If you say something nice about your children, they will top that by saying something better about their children. When that happens, I stop the conversation and just let them talk. He not only thinks poorly of you, but he judges everyone around him as well. He will come off as a very rude and annoying to others. For example, at a restaurant, he may talk down to the waitress simply because she is there to serve him. I remember I had a special speaker come, and we took him out to eat, and we were all happy because we were all going to take, the leaders were all going to take turns and take him to eat. I think it was like 4 days, I think it was. Anyway, so we're all happy and everything. So we get to the restaurant, and he's got an ego. Mind you, the speaker had an ego. Boy, did he have an ego. Anyway, he was putting the waitress down. He was putting the food down. He was so rude to her. So guess what happened? All the leaders that we were all going to take turns to take him out to eat. None of them wanted it. After that evening, nobody wanted to take him out to eat. So I got stuck. So I had to deal with this ego person. Example of a man with an ego. For a man, however, his ego enables him to do what men do well. Now, this is good. This is good. Okay, this is the positive side. They overcome challenges and hurdles, domination of his environment. He lets the women and children go first. So that's the neat part of it. A woman can defend herself from an attacker, but a guy walking next to her keeps her from feeling that fear to begin with. So when you feel safe with a man, that means this is the good kind of ego, and I don't call it ego, I just call it he's a man. He's quiet when there's nothing to be said, and he takes action when he needs to take action. Now, understanding men, and you say, well, you're a woman, how how dare you say you understand men? No, I'm just telling you what I know. His ego is not what you think it is. A man's ego is extremely fragile, okay? And I know the difference because I had a daughter and a son. And my son's ego was more fragile than my daughter's because in a way we all kind of have ego, but most of us use it for the good, not for the bad. But anyway, I would notice that I would say the same thing to my daughter and the same thing to my son, and he was more sensitive than she was. His ego is the structure around which he builds his feelings on his ability and purpose in the world. So I had to be sensitive to my son because he was going to grow up to be a man, and I wanted him to become that gentleman, a man that opens the door for his wife, for his girlfriend, pulls the chair, always pays for the dinner. So I was raising him to be a gentleman, and so I was very careful to be aware of his fragile ego, because men have fragile egos, and a man's ego is not what he actually thinks of himself. Well, I know it seems like guys have this inflated self-opinion, but in reality, it is kind of a mutual agreed act that men use to get on with the business of life. And they use their ego to broadcast a feeling of self-confidence. Now I have to reveal a little secret that men will not admit. Now, the men that don't have big egos, they will agree with me. Women have more influence over men than they think. You know how they say a good man, there's a good man because there's a good woman behind him. If a man puts himself out there for a woman and she unintentionally sticks a pin in his balloon, he will not come back to her with love anymore, because you'll blow the relationship if you do that. This is when he will likely pull away from her. A woman can be an easy target when she shares her feelings with a man. So you have to be careful. And that person will use it against her. A woman believes that a man gets her when he understands her feelings and her emotional life. But a man does not focus on feelings. To a man, his soul is his purpose and abilities in life. So he ignores feelings in place of this driving force that they have. Can you see how a disconnect is created here? Do women have egos? Yes. I've met some of them, and they're so dominating. They scare me, to be honest with you. I really don't like those kind of women. I like women to have confidence because they will encourage you. In other words, if we're women of confidence, we can encourage other people. But if we're women that have egos, we'll scare people away. Women are better listeners and communicators. That's one thing I can say, because and I use my son and my daughter as example because they're the opposite. Okay, I'll talk to my son, and he's not really listening to me, and I talk to my daughter, and she is. So men are not that good of listeners. I can tell you that already. Women, a man does not focus on feelings. Women bond more deeply. They play hard and they work harder. They're forces to be reckoned with. I remember my pastor's wife would tell me, "You are very submissive to your husband." I didn't mind being taken care of. In other words, I didn't mind him leading. I didn't mind, I desired that because, when you have to do everything, you kind of would like for somebody to help you. An ego man is only looking out after number one. So that's not a good thing. So if you want to have a relationship with someone, make sure you don't get involved with a person that has a big ego, because you're going to be left behind and you're not that important because he's number one. I'm going to tell you a story by his son, the way I remembered it. This man had great habits. He had a big ego. He did push-ups every day. Every day he would do push-ups. He exercised. He climbed rocks. He went for long walks. He ate little and avoided sweets and grease, so he took care of his physical being, right? He took such good care of his teeth that they looked fake, and yet he had terrible habits. And we're going to go ahead and stop there, and I will continue on this story, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Flora Padilla Show, and we're going to continue where we left out. And we left out on how I was telling you the story of this son was told a story about his father, how he had good habits, and now I'm telling you about the terrible habits that he had. He was chronically angry. A chronic anger is a very troubling emotion state where a person's feelings, conduct, and thoughts are dominated by anger. Unlike other forms of anger, feelings of chronic anger tend to be prolonged and does not subside with time. This type of anger can cause significant impairment when it comes to daily life. Okay, remember he would do lifts, he'd walk, he'd watch what he was eating. Now we see the other side. He would throw things around the house and broke them, and he did not drink often, but when he did, he turned more violent than usual. He did not go to doctors even when his family begged him. Remember, he had a big ego. He let this big ugly mole on his back grow bigger and bigger, and he refused to go to the doctor. His family would say, you need to go have it checked. Well, it turned out that it was cancer, but this cancer was curable if he would have gone at the right time. But because of this ego, he died at 51 years old. He died before his time. And there's a lot of people that die before their time because of their ego. This man was a real man, so good and so bad. He was also every man. Ego and confidence. Okay, we're going to talk about ego and confidence because we got to distinguish them because they are different. Ego and confidence. Okay, successful people put all their efforts into building and growing their new ventures, setting their own egos aside. They have their priorities and hard work above all else. They do not move ahead simply by being an incredible person, because they probably are, but they don't put that as priority. But because of personal strength and attributes often have a lot to do with success. It is not always clear where we are acting in the interest of our goals or simply indulging on our own egos. Ego gets in the way. It is actually good to be confident, but walking the line between self-assured and conceited may be a scheme balancing act that you would want to think about. To have confidence is to have faith in your own abilities and believe in yourself, but the ego is something else entirely. Unlike confidence and validation at all costs in order to be seen as right. Remember, they think they are always right, which we can't always be right. Some warning signs that your ego may be leading you astray. So I'm going to give you some things to think about in case you're doing an evaluation, because you want to have a better relationship, with whoever. People that have big egos listen to advice but rarely follow it. In other words, they listen to it but they don't do it. No matter where you are in life, there is always someone who knows more. And when we know that, we won't be thinking that we know it all. I'm constantly learning from others, those around me. When we stop learning, we stop growing, and our careers and our ministries suffer as a result because of the ego. And remember, a lot of ministries have failed because of their egos. They think they can get away with things because they have a big position, they're pastors of a big church, And then they land up falling because of their ego. They think they can get away with it. They may hear their advice and dismiss it based on what they know to be true, but it is important to always listen. We must always listen. We must keep your ego in check. You have to keep your ego in check. It is important to respect the ability of others and to listen what they say, even if they have less experience than we do. You have to keep that in mind. Listening, you might learn. You might learn something different, or you might learn something about yourself. I'm constantly wanting to learn. That's one of the things that I think that's why I continue to grow, because I always want to learn. Many people are not receptive to others' feedback, and they do not take it to heart. Do not put it into action. Like, in other words, like me, okay. I want you, my viewers, to make a comment. If it's good, I appreciate it. And you can help me by saying, well, I would like you to be more excited, or I would like you to express yourself more, or I'd like you to jump up and down, whatever, or speak louder. I don't mind all that. You can write it down, but don't be nasty about anything, because I can't accept that. I can accept something to help me grow, but not something to put me down, because that's not the way we do things. And then also you can share what I'm sharing with somebody else, because you say, wait a minute, this is something that I know my friend needs, or my husband needs. Maybe your husband needs it. And you say, I think I'll just ask him if he wants to listen to it. But don't force him, because we don't ever try to fix anyone. So we always want feedback. I always want my viewers, if they have a topic for me to talk about, let me know. This topic came from an ego person that I happened to have a discussion with, and that's where the Lord gave me the topic. So no one gave it to me, God gave it to me. So you must keep your ego in check. Okay, then another way, it's another warning sign. Another warning sign. You never look for flaws. Okay, one of the biggest missteps your ego can cause is that you don't like someone to point out mistakes. Okay, how are you going to learn? How are you going to grow? How are you going to become better if a person doesn't point out mistakes? Now, you don't want this person to constantly be pointing out mistakes. Then that person has an ego. Whether you are writing a book or getting a message or a topic, I always want to improve. I have found it is vital that you be able to look for flaws in your own work. How can I improve? Which I do. I let me tell you, when I'm putting a topic together, a message together, I go over it and over it, because I care about how I do things. I don't like to throw things and just be sloppy and not care. No, I want to be able to do the best that I can. There's always room to improve. Unfortunately, your ego can get in the way of that. Confidence can be good for a great drive, but it should not prevent you from being self-critical to grow. Okay, there's another thing. You try to do everything yourself. Okay, I've always been very self-sufficient and independent. Independence, self-starter, is good for a job. It's a description and good for ministry, because you don't have to babysit them. I call them forerunners or trailblazers, because someone has to start something. And I remember when my pastor told me I was a self-made person. And so many startup founders do everything alone in the early days of necessity. I know I did. I am the founder of Many Broken Hearts Ministry. But eventually you have to ask for help. Do not let your ego keep you from asking for help. Because at first I used to have a hard time asking for help because I felt I didn't want to be imposing. And later I learned that it was okay to ask for help. Thank God, because we can't do everything by ourselves. So don't let your ego keep you from getting help or asking for help. In short, the business world rewards people who thrive by working solo, at least up to the point. I always admit that I need help. I do it now. I didn't at the beginning. I do not let the ego get in the way. Ego can get in the way of correcting course and leads you eventually to failure. Okay, I'm going to give you another one, and then I'm going to go ahead and stop. You see, some things are being beneath you. This is the opposite problem of doing everything on your own. You do what you have to do to make it, but it is crucial to evaluate each new opportunities, relative pros and cons, to decide whether it is right for you. So an ego person keeps going, even when they are wrong, and so you have to watch those signs, because what happens to those people, and I shared that story about that father, where he was so full of ego that he went ahead and died early. Don't let your ego keep you from having a great relationship with your spouse or your mate or your girlfriend. So with that, it is important to always watch for the signs that you may have taken the wrong turn and admit when you need to change. So admitting that you need to change is a good thing, because the opposite of ego is humility, and humility will always be good, no matter what. If you have a humble spirit, you're going to have it made, because you're always going to make the right decisions, because you don't think you know it all. And that's when you know that your ego is not bigger than you. So with that, I just want to remind you to buy my books, and also I just share, put like, make a comment, and then if you have a topic that you want me to talk about next week, just let me know. That is why the ego is the source of all your suffering. It always wants more. An ego always wants more. So always consider disarming the negative ego emotions. Disarm it. Start being sensitive to others. Start listening. Be a better communicator, and start caring about other people's feelings, because the dark side is a lack of motivation from the inner man. So I want you to understand that ego is destructive, and it does say pride before a fall. So just keep this in mind. If you humble yourself, you will be rewarded, and God is going to reward you. So God bless you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.